Speaking of lunch, we're going to talk about food production, all the way from the entire chain, how technology and what I like to call connected intelligent systems are basically bringing productivity. You heard a panel from Terraform, Fabio. Let me bring up the panelists, Marco, Jim, and Marcella. And as they come up here, I'll introduce them real quick. So Jim is CEO of Arable, one of Qualcomm Ventures portfolio company here in San Francisco. Marco is founder and CEO of Aravita, a seed stage company we funded recently in Brazil, and they're all going to talk about what they do. And Marcella is with Cubo. She's head of investor relations. Cubo is this startup hub in Brazil, very successful, bringing corporates and startups together. And it turns out that ag and ag industry sponsors is a big thing. So just a couple more things. So food industry, obviously huge in Brazil. It's about almost 25% of GDP. Back in the late 1700s, Reverend Thomas Malthus said that population was going to stop because there wasn't enough food capacity, food production in the world. After that, we saw, several revolutions in the ag industry. First mechanization, then the green revolution between chemistry and genetics, and then more recently we see, tech and with geolocation and whatnot. And so we're going to delve into this topic here. And it's all great. Now, the world, people predict that we're going to have to feed another billion to 2 billion through 2050. And not only that, the existing people are, as they get lifted from poverty, they eat more. So we need to have more food production. And that's all fine and dandy. The issue is, turns out that food production is a big culprit in carbon footprint. So big environmental impact, and all of these companies and the companies that Marcella works with at Cubo, they are in some form or fashion addressing this problem and obviously opportunity. So with that, let's go real quick. Start with Jim. Jim, tell us what is Arable, real quick. So three-part session. What it is, then we dive a little deeper how, and how are you using technology, how has obviously 2023, the theme of the event is AI. We can't not talk about AI and how it's changing your business. So with that, Jim, thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. And thank you, BayBrazil, for having me here today. It's a wonderful event. So I'm Jim Ethington. I'm the CEO of Arable. Arable is an IoT-driven decision company that works in agriculture. We have a big presence in Brazil. Obviously, agriculture is very important there. And what we are building is really connected smart systems that help drive optimal decisions on the farm.
Okay. Marco?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Margarisi, for the invitation, and CK as well. Aravita optimizes the ordering of fresh food for supermarkets to improve their bottom line by increasing sales and reducing waste. So we also use AI to better forecast demand, understand inventory, and explore different supply scenarios.
Good. And then Marcella, you're actually an ag entrepreneur. You were an ag VC, right? And now you're doing this on a broader sense with multiple startups. So maybe...
Yeah, that's true. So I co-founded a startup in the food waste space also since Marco in 2015. Previous, I worked at SP Ventures. That's the largest VC in the ag and food tech space in LATAM. And now I'm leading investors and corporate relations at Cubo Itaú. Cubo is also the largest hub of tech and innovation of our region. We are in the space over 8 years now, where we foster connections. So it's really important to say that we are a nonprofit. What we do is put in the same space corporate investors and also startups to provide business opportunities to them. Regarding the ag space, it's our largest vertical. We have over 5 sponsors for this initiative. We have over 10 verticals that we tackle today, so agro is the most relevant one because we have over 130 initiatives of open innovation in the ag tech industry in Cubo currently. This means over 2,500 executives involved for the corporates that work with us. And these corporates today are São Martinho, Corteva, Suzano, and also Itaú BBA from the credit part side.
Great. So, Jim, you built this gizmo. Super exciting. I don't know if you have a prop somewhere here or not. All right. This is something you put in the fields, right?
Right.
Either for design of new seeds or actually in production. I understand this thing has about 20 plus sensors, and it's a hardware enabled platform with a lot of the decisions being done, some of it here and some of it on the cloud. You didn't start last year, so you can't tell me you're an AI first company. But tell me how you set out to do what you're doing, how this works, and then how is it that AI is changing your results?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came to Arable 5 years ago, and the reason that we started building these is a core belief that in today's world, what really separates companies and gives you a competitive advantage is differentiated access to data. You go back 15 years ago, it was people who could use data storage, store tons of data, access it. 7 years ago, it was who could run ML algorithms, train models, things like that. Even a couple of years ago, is who could run image analysis, stuff like that. These are all getting very, very easy. We do this with teams of 3, 4 that I used to use teams of 80, 120 to do. And so what's going to separate companies in the future is how you can get your hands on data, easier, cheaper, faster, and the right data, better data. What's OpenAI doing all day, every day? What data can we put in, and what curation mechanism can we use in reinforcement learning? And so that's about the data that's feeding into the models. And so that's really what started our journey at Arable, was how do we get the right data about what's happening in agriculture. The $4.4 trillion of AI value that we saw this morning. We forgot an industry up there.
Yep.
Food and agriculture is an $8 trillion industry that I think is going to be totally transformed by AI. And so that's where we started, was how do we get the right data that does not really exist in agriculture? And that's what led us to build this product, which goes out in the farm, detects all the things that matter to a plant around the weather. There's also a suite of cameras and spectral sensors and thermal sensors that are basically allowing the plant itself to operate like a sensor. Plants will tell you what's going on if you know how to listen. They'll tell you if they're stressed due to a lack of water, due to a lack of nutrients, but you have to know how to read the signal, and that's what we've built as an ability to do that. What's changing our business around by using AI? So that's sort of part one, is how do we feed the algorithms? On the second part, we help growers with how and when to spray. Very important in Brazil. When we do that, you look at things like how long have the leaves been wet, what are the weather conditions, and model it out. We're using deep learning to improve weather forecasting. So once you have devices in the field, you can augment weather forecasts via deep learning models and make them more and more accurate. Leads to farmers actually trusting the product and making decisions. The same thing around irrigation. Right now, we provide recommendations about how and when to irrigate. We're using the visual and thermal images along with some of the newest image detection, image analysis algorithms to also say, hey, is this plant showing signs that it is stressed? And you can fire off a warning or an alert. You get on your phone and say, hey, we're seeing something in this field. Or you can ask the product, are any of my fields looking stressed today? It'll come back and tell you no. And so those add a huge advantage and value into our product by being able to basically layer AI on top of use cases that we're already pursuing.
Fantastic. Marco, you are, remember when you called me sometimes 18 months ago, say, hey, I want to start something new. I'm thinking about a few things. And lo and behold, started Aravita. So what is the opportunity there? And how is it that, how is it that you're applying tech, and where do you get data from, and AI just to basically, help eliminate food waste in the food chain?
All right. So basically, retailers have made very little progress over the past 3,000 years in terms of how they make decisions regarding how much food to buy and how much food to put out there for sale. And it used to be figs and dates and almonds. Now it's apples and oranges. But other than that, it's still a very similar process. It's trying to get a feel for how many people are going to come into the store, what they're going to buy, how good the products are right now, how attractive they are, how long they're likely to last, and so on and so forth. So they've been using very simple decision mechanisms to make these decisions. Very often, these decisions are also made by people who have been hired because they can carry oranges and promoted because they're really good at serving customers. But here they are, being told to make decisions about how much to purchase. And so what we're doing is that we're really bringing systematic intelligence to this process because we're talking about things that are purchased typically every single day at every single store. And so it's a high-frequency decision that requires or should require systematic approaches and consistent decision criteria. And on top of that, access to data that is typically not available to the decision maker, at least not in a systematic way. So we're talking about things, from weather to competitive pricing to seasonality to fluctuations over the course of a week. And if you bring all these things together, then you can make a much better decision, and you can both avoid food waste, but also avoid stockouts, which also hinder profitability dramatically in businesses that have razor-thin margins, as was mentioned here before. So we're trying to bring this intelligence to fresh food management and really enable not only retailers to be more successful, but really also to have a world that is healthier, better fed, and with less climate impact.
Great. Marcella, maybe you work with multiple companies. Maybe you can pick one that you find super interesting that is, good for the audience to talk about what's the problem they're solving and what's exciting about them.
Great. So Cubo acts like the connector. So I say frequently that we are kind of a Tinder from the corporate world. So it's interesting that Marco is part of Cubo with his startup. Arable also has done business with São Martinho.
Did you swipe left? Right?
So I wanted to highlight São Martinho. São Martinho is one of the largest players in the sugarcane industry. They have approximately 24 million tons of sugarcane per season, and they have 100% of mechanization in their fields. So they are massive, and at Cubo, they already done business with 2 startups on top of AI. Regarding this sector, we have 5 cases already. And I believe that a really interesting one is a startup called AgroScout. They are an Israeli startup. So this is another interesting thing about Cubo. We can have this global approach, not just only with working with local startups. This startup specifically, they tackle the precision ag vertical, and together with São Martinho, they put up together a system where they can identify with the AI a model having more efficiency in the harvest and in the time that is ideal to crop the sugarcane.
Great. So all of this sounds super sci-fi, high tech. Give me each of you one concrete example of a customer success story using your platforms.
Absolutely. So I'll do one from Brazil. So we have various growers in Brazil. One of them is growing bananas, and they have to spray about 25 times a year to keep those free from disease. And so what we've been able to do is combining the visual camera as well as some of the things I mentioned before to help them. And the reason they're doing that is they don't really know when they need to spray, and so much safer to just spray all the time and not lose your crop, which is their livelihood. And so what we've been able to do is give them a really clear indication of when there is risk and when there is not risk. And some of that is just about having data that's very relevant to that crop, knowing how to model that and provide a very simple interface. Is it red or green? Is it good or bad? Do I have to spray today? Yes or no? But then you can really supercharge that with AI, improve the interface, and improve the feedback loop that the user gets to see, okay, I don't actually see the disease either. I'm comfortable skipping this spray now. And so we've been able to take the amount of spray that they do on those bananas down by 20%. And that's been proven 2 years in a row, and we can really see a big difference both in the profit for that customer, but also the amount of chemicals that we have to use to produce food. And so that's one that we're really excited about, and I think makes a big difference in the world.
We don't even have 2 years of lifetime, so I guess I can't give examples that are this good. But our first pilot customer has initiated a rollout, which I think is a very good sign, and we've landed a second pilot customer that we're starting to work with this very month of October. But I do want to mention something else that we're doing, because we've always had this firm belief that it would be really important to have a human in the loop and have the product as a co-pilot to make sure that we would gain their confidence and also improve the quality of the decision making over time. And this is a place where Gen AI has played, a transformative role in how we defined our approach to the customer experience, because we're able to capture a lot of additional data that already existed in people's minds, but wasn't structured, wasn't systematized. And now, with a mobile device, we can capture images that are very important to how we make decisions going forward. And also through, voice commentary, we can capture their feedback, and through this improve not only the current decisions, but also the performance of the model as a whole. So this is a way that we're using Gen AI that we've been talking about so much today in a very concrete way for a brand new company.
Regarding Cubo, we have a super interesting case with AgroTools. So AgroTools is a data startup where they have almost the largest base of ag information in our region. They partner up with Itaú BBA, and they are the risk and credit analysts in the ag space for the bank. So we cannot disclose dates, results, practical until now, but it's going really well, and we're optimized with this partnership.
Good, great. Last question, because we're short on time. So Jim, you have San Francisco-based company. I'm sure the ag industry here in the U.S. alone is huge. And as they say, I'm sure you heard the saying, Brazil is not for amateurs. So what are you doing in Brazil? Why Brazil?
Well, how do we get to Brazil? So Carlos, I use that line all the time. I should be giving you credit when I tell people Brazil is not for amateurs. It's true. So why are we doing this? I've spent a lot of time in Brazil. I've been in this space of agriculture and the digitization of agriculture for the last 15 years. And when the first product I launched down there, I just saw this huge need in the market. Brazil is about the same size as the U.S. in terms of agriculture. The growers are very progressive. The opportunity, like the pain point, is very acute. There are not a lot of great technologies serving agriculture in Brazil. And in some ways, the growers are much more eager to adopt technology and be innovative. They've had to be innovative all the way along. Whereas in the US, you don't always see that. And so also we have several large global customers who we work with across many countries, and Brazil is very, very important to them. And so to serve global customers, Brazil was an important geo, but we're out there, spinning up new customers and new business as well. And so I think part of it is just seeing this as an opportunity, and part of it was, when I first started working down there, I found it a fantastic place to work that had a great opportunity for technology and agriculture.
So Marco, for you, what's the key challenge? Generating more data is probably not the right answer. So how are you going about in terms of sort of, again, tapping the opportunity, but what do you see as a key challenge?
Well, I think in addition to the technology per se, which also has a lot to do with data and the intelligence they're building around it, I think a huge challenge for us will be to get adoption. I mean, we're talking about, as I mentioned before, a process that has been around for 3,000 years. Retail is not particularly progressive, especially food retailing. And I don't know exactly what it is like here, but I can assure you that in Brazil, food retail is probably one of the very last bastions of analog technology or non-technology for decision making. And so getting everyone on board and adopting a system that will require a deeper level of understanding and trust over time will be a big deal, and probably at a deeper level, it also involves optimizing across functions. So people that have been used to having, complete control of their domain will have to open up to the idea that a system will see things that are happening under different people's jurisdictions and will be able to propose a solution that is better for the overall business. And I think getting people to trust the system and really take advantage of the data and the intelligence that we're providing will probably be a really interesting challenge going forward.
Great, thank you, Marcella. Any key opportunities or challenges you see with the companies you're working with?
I believe that the key opportunity that we provoke at Cubo is the vision of 5 to 10 years that we can develop within the corporates that are working with us. So by being side by side with the incumbents, we can put them with investors and also with startups and start the change over there. So I believe that this is the great opportunity and we can do this all together.
Great. With that, I'm going to wrap up here because we're short of time. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, CK, Marcella, Jim, and Marco.